In this video, we bring to you immediate reactions to every single fantasy relevant pick from day 2, rounds 2 and 3. So stick around to find out winners, losers, what landing spots we love, what players we are depressed about. And welcome to the Dino Construction Podcast. Today is Saturday, April 27th. It is 1:20 Eastern Time. We are reacting right now to every single fantasy player drafted in the second and third round on day 2. So we're just going to hop right into it with the first pick, 201, Keon Coleman out of Buffalo. I'm going to throw this to JP first because you have some useful insight on this player.
Yeah, Keon Coleman, he landed with the Buffalo Bills here, which, most people are going to love to have a wide receiver go to the Buffalo Bills, especially with the state of their depth chart right now. Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, his work, fantastic work. Check it out if you aren't familiar, by the way. But with Keon Coleman's profile against man and press coverage, he was below the 35th percentile in success rate versus both of those coverages. He was solid against zone, though. He was about average against zone. But Matt Harmon, he made the point with wide receivers that are below the 35th percentile and at least 2 of the 3 main coverages that the hit rate has not been good. But the guys that have succeeded are guys who have transitioned to big slot wide receiver roles, which he's got the hands, to catch across the middle. He's got great hands. He's got a pretty good understanding against zone. So I think that he could succeed as a slot wide receiver in the NFL. I just don't know with the depth chart right now if they really have a guy to put it at the X wide receiver role. I don't know if they're going to play him there. And if they do, I will be concerned because I don't think he separates well outside.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for Coleman, right? How are they going to use him? If they think he's just going to play outside and win at the line of scrimmage, I don't think he's going to be very successful. But you know what? Could you ask for a better spot if you're Keon Coleman? Probably not. So hard to call him a loser. I don't know that I love the fit for Buffalo as the team, but for Coleman, it's great.
That's a difficult one to evaluate for sure. David brings up that good point of if they plan to use him somewhat inside, but with the depth chart, JP kind of was mentioning, it's hard to necessarily imagine that. So time will tell. It'll be interesting to see if they take a 4th round wide receiver. Second player off the board, the 202 wide receiver Ladd McConkey to the Los Angeles Chargers. David, this was one of your guys pre-draft.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed he didn't go in the first round, but second pick in the second round to a great landing spot. I can't be too upset at this point. I still think he's back into the first round of rookie drafts, most likely. We've had some other disappointing wide receivers, so I think Ladd managed to save his stock a little bit with this landing spot.
And the Chargers, they actually traded up to get Ladd here as well. I mean, they only had to move up 3 or 4 spots, but they liked him that much, so they had to make sure that they got Ladd on their team, which, shows how much they value him. And with the state of their wide receiver room, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston. Yeah, I think Ladd McConkey is going to be producing pretty early in his career so far.
Yeah, have to love that landing spot. That was the one in round 1 that we were all hoping we would see someone go to. So practically round 1 draft capital, although not quite for Ladd McConkey. Have to love it. Next player off the board at the 205, wide receiver Jalen Polk to the New England Patriots. It is definitely a landing spot that does not have a large amount of target competition. Mario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kayshon Boutte, Hunter Henry, guys that he's competing with targets for. I just have it stuck in my head that listening to all the people on the Dynasty Nerds film review team all saying that this is a guy who did not separate well off the line of scrimmage. They thought he was really good at contested catches, but didn't have a lot else that he did exceptionally. And I just remember the last guy that kind of fit that sort of a potential mold going near the first round to the Patriots being N'Keal Harry. I am a little trepidatious here, but I'm open. David, sell me real quick.
Well, the difference between him and Harry is Polk's actually good at other things. He might not be great at them, but he's a solid receiver. He went a little higher than I expected. I think he went higher than most of us expected. With the rookie quarterback there, we don't love it. Like you mentioned, no target competition. He did everything fairly well. He needs to probably work on his route running a little bit. But, man, those hands are something. I mean, that's not a lie. I think you can move him around if you want. They don't necessarily have to, but he can play outside. He can play inside. I think it's a fun pick. I think it's interesting. A little surprised, but I think he's definitely a winner here.
I just think he's more of like a all around solid player. I don't know if he has like a real high ceiling, but I do think that it at least makes you feel a little bit better about Drake May and just the offense in general. But yes, I don't know if I love it. I'm pretty lukewarm on the pick.
All right, next player off the board, 214. Jonathon Brooks to the Panthers. Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard are the RBs on the depth chart right now of note. I'm going to throw it right back to you, David. You liked this landing spot quite a bit, didn't you?
I do, actually, yeah. I wish I remembered the exact quote. The new coach, Canales, said something along the lines of, we're going to run so much it's going to frustrate you, or something like that. But he's really committed to the run based on what he's saying. They used Rachaad White very well in Tampa, where he was last year. They can bring him back slowly because of his knee if they have to. Not like they're competing. They've got a couple other backs that they can, spread the work around if they want. But I think overall, yeah, it's a good spot. He's going to get a ton of work.
I feel confident saying he is going to be better than the Miles Sanders experience last year. So, JP, you also think this is a decent spot, or how are you feeling?
I do. I also believe it. Yeah, I think it was something along the lines, David, of I'm going to show you how stubborn I am with the run game. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he indicated, obviously, that he wants to run the ball. I think Jonathon Brooks is the best all-around running back in this draft class. Don't expect him to be great, the first 4, maybe 6 weeks or so because he's recovering from the ACL. But, yeah, I think he has a chance to take over this backfield, and they're probably going to want to feed him. And I don't think they love Chuba and Miles Sanders when you see them make this pick.
And JP, can you show me whether or not you're stubborn with your pre-draft takes here? Adonai Mitchell, the 20th pick of the second round to the Indianapolis Colts. Is he still above Xavier Worthy for you?
I mean, Xavier Worthy, he gets to play with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in a depth chart that isn't super strong. Adonai Mitchell gets to play, he almost goes a full round later. I think he fell further than what people expected, further than I expected. I think Michael Pittman is a great wide receiver. I think Josh Downs is solid as well. And Anthony Richardson, I don't think he's going to be a super high volume passer as well. So if he's the second or third target for Anthony Richardson, yeah, I don't love that, especially because, I liked him pretty well. I think Pittman, he can play the X. Mitchell, he plays the X too. I don't know. They'll probably move Pittman around. But I think this is really, really nice for Anthony Richardson, though.
Gotta like it for Richardson. Thank you for being a good sport, by the way. JP does not have take lock, and making takes before the NFL draft is hard. So thanks for letting me tease you a little bit. David, do you like this pick?
Not really. I think it's great for Anthony Richardson if that's the ball game you're in. I think we brought that up. But, these receivers are just going to cannibalize each other. You've already got Jonathan Taylor. You've got a running quarterback. I will say they used Alec Pierce basically as a wind sprinter last year, so it's an upgrade there. But, how many passing yards are you going to have to spread out? How many targets are you going to spread out? He's just going to be a boomer bust player there, in my opinion.
I am not in love with that landing spot either. Next player off the board, next pick, 21st of the second round, tight end Ben Sinnott, Washington. So we look at the depth chart there. Zach Ertz, top of the depth chart. We have other guys people like well enough as like a 4th, 5th round rookie pick value of like a Cole Turner. Sell those guys if you can. Probably too late. Ben Sinnott. I like this guy. I've been hearing throughout the draft cycle him as the potential tight end 3. He might be the tight end 2 with this landing spot, this draft capital. So I am excited for him, especially in a tight end premium. I don't think Ertz has much left in the tank. I'm going to throw this to you guys. You guys kind of like this or kind of neutral? Just give me a winner or loser.
I think I'd classify him as a winner. There's only one other tight end that went on day 2, and Tip Reiman, who we'll touch on a little bit later. So, yeah, I think he's clearly the tight end 2 now. He's got a young quarterback. Hopefully, Jaden Daniels will be good. And I don't think Zach Ertz is going to be there for that much longer. I don't think Cole Turner's that great either. So, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I think he's a little bit of a winner here.
Yeah, I think it's more of a push, honestly. I think I like the player, and he's, risen up draft boards throughout this process. He's already got someone above him technically. So if you draft him, just be patient with him. It's probably not going to happen this year, but he's a good player, so I can see him developing into that role.
And that is somehow the end of the second round. Only 6 fantasy viable, relevant players in the second round. A little bit disappointing. We were hoping for 6 in the top 40 today, right? 6 in those first 10 picks. That being said, first pick of the third round, we do see wide receiver Malachi Corley going 301 to the New York Jets. Potentially interesting landing spot just from an opportunity standpoint.
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. And they don't really have much on their depth chart at the position, so the opportunity's there. You had to drop a lot of plays for him. And I'm not quite sure Aaron Rodgers is willing to do that. He likes to do his own thing. He likes to call audibles at the line. He likes to change the play as he sees. That's not good for a player that you have to design plays for, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I would also say not huge on the landing spot. JP, just initial quick reaction.
Yeah, I'd say it's somewhat of a push. He gets a good quarterback for year one without a super deep wide receiver room. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of Malachi Corley personally.
Next player off the board, someone we're a little more excited about, 302, running back Trey Benson out of Florida State, going to the Arizona Cardinals. James Conner on the depth chart. Of course, Amari DeMercado there as well. Shout out to my homie. I think you're done, DeMercado. This is one I am a little bit trepidatious about for like week one production. They took this guy to be the guy going forward, right? This is Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey Benson. These three guys are going to be the guys on their season ticket pass for the next 3 to 4 years, right? They're planning to build around this draft class offensively. I'm pretty excited about him long term. They're a team that we just saw Connor have a couple really successful seasons with. I think that by the end of the season, we're going to see Benson kind of leading that timeshare. At least that's my hope. So I think that he is a bit of a winner here, even if it's not our favorite landing spot. Is he a winner for you, Brief JP?
People are disappointed because it's not the Dallas landing spot or the Chargers we were hoping for. But I think it is a great offense. James Conner, I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. So I personally kind of like this landing spot. I think it's one of the 5 or 6 best landing spots that there were.
Yeah, I think we looked at it before we started recording. They could even cut Connor this year, like before the season. I think they'd save like $4.5 million if I read that right. I like the spot. Connor's not even that healthy anymore when he does play. So, if he can fill into that role halfway through the season or something and take most of the carries, I think it's a good spot.
Let's go for my Trey Benson share. 316 wide receiver Jermaine Burton to the Cincinnati Bengals. Alabama guy here.
I'm excited. He gets to play with the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Higgins seems like he's potentially on the move this offseason, and if he's not, then this is going to be his last year. So for dynasty purposes, if Higgins is still here this year, which I'm just going to go ahead and assume that's what's going to happen, he's a third-round wide receiver, wasn't a first-rounder. If he's at the end of the second, I'm more than happy to take that shot because right now, Tyler Boyd is gone. Burton, he's probably going to be the wide receiver 3 on the team. So, yeah, he might have some weeks here and there where he pops off. But in year 2 and moving forward, if he gets to spend his career with Joe Burrow, yeah, I think he can be a really good dynasty asset, year 2 plus.
And we saw that slot position be productive as well if he's playing out of the slot. So winner for me.
Yeah, I think he's a winner also. It's a great offense, and he can play outside, so maybe you can move Chase inside a little bit more. You move him around more than you have in his career.
That makes Burrow a winner too, for sure. Next player, 318, tight end, Tip Reiman. And again, moving on. Just kidding. We'll talk for 20 seconds about him. Athletic guy, however, last year, 200 receiving yards. Played linebacker in high school. Very athletic guy. Come on, Trey McBride, tight end 1 in Arizona. Not someone that we are looking to really pick. 319, running back Blake Corum, Los Angeles Rams. Michigan Wolverine going here. Kyron Williams, of course, ahead of him on the depth chart. Ronnie Rivers still there. Zach Evans. David, you're not very big on Corum. Does this landing spot kind of just sink him for you unless you're getting him late 3rd, early 4th?
I'd have to look at my rankings. I'll probably take him a little earlier than that. I do think Kyron holds, obviously, most of the carries, still most of the receptions. And, I'm a little disappointed for my Kyron shares. I tried to move some this offseason, but was unsuccessful, and I kind of regret that now. I still think Kyron will be solid. You got to kind of consider him a little bit of a loser. I think Corum was, 1 letter off from the landing spot we wanted there? Yeah, not a good spot for him either. So You got to consider him a loser, in my opinion.
I think so too. Kyron, he still has 2 more years on his contract, and he was great last year.
And the next pick, maybe they were just like picked together because they played together. Just kidding. I mean, they're not going to the same team. But right in a row, Roman Wilson at the 20th pick of the third round to the Pittsburgh Steelers. JP and I had a little conversation before. I like this landing spot in general. I didn't like it if it was a first round wide receiver. But in the third round, them taking Roman Wilson here. I mean, it's an open depth chart, right? Who do they have behind Pickens? Not much. I think Wilson could be successful out of the slot, potentially that sort of like a flanker role. He's fast. I'm a little excited about this one. I'm thinking end of the second, beginning of the third. He's a guy that I'm interested in taking. JP, what's your initial thought?
Yeah, from a depth chart perspective, behind Pickens there is Calvin, Austin, and Van Jefferson. So nothing that's really gonna scare you for targets on Roman Wilson. I don't love the quarterback and offensive coordinator fit personally. Like just with Arthur Smith, I think he's just going to want to run. And I think Russell Wilson, he really likes to target those outside guys. He throws it down the boundary a lot more than looking over the middle. I mean, I've seen people talk about how he just Jerry Jeudy last year, he just never looks at him over the middle. But anyways, I think it's more of a push personally in my eyes.
David, win, lose, push?
I think I agree with the push. Don't know that he matches up well with Wilson. But I do agree with you. Pittsburgh's pretty good at evaluating wide receiver talent. So
moving on to a win for the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion, but probably a lose for my MarShawn Lloyd fantasy shares that I already have pre-draft. 25 pick of the third round, MarShawn Lloyd, running back out of USC. I mean, Josh Jacobs just signed there, but I do believe that's technically a 1-year fancy 4-year deal. Is that correct, David, with Jacobs?
Yeah, I think there's an out after 1. I think it's a lot easier after 2, but either way, it could happen after 1 year.
Guy that I liked, my friends at Dynasty Nerds, who I love to listen to their film reviews, really liked MarShawn Lloyd. He is one of those guys people say kind of not really great vision as a runner potentially, but very athletic guy. But just going here behind Jacobs year 1, I'm a little bit disappointed. So he's a loser for me.
I think he's a loser as well. He doesn't really have a path to many opportunities. Packers are going to run the ball, but Jacobs is going to get it first.
JP, loser for you as well?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Josh Jacobs, if he plays well, I think they're just going to keep him around for, his second year on the contract as well.
And another Dino Construction rookie crush, 29th pick of the third round, wide receiver Jalen McMillan going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. JP, were you excited or disappointed by this landing spot and draft capital?
Not that excited. I mean, Mike Evans, he just signed an extension. Chris Godwin, he is still there. I think he kind of fits in the role that Chris Godwin plays. So he might be the third target for Baker Mayfield, which that doesn't really excite me much. So, yeah, I think he's a bit of a loser. Going to the end of the third round, too, isn't fantastic capital. I mean, it's fine. But, David, what do you think? Do you think he's a loser?
Yeah, between loser and push, to be honest. Probably loser, though. I mean, there are tons of better spots he could have landed. The fact that he snuck into the back of the third, though, is kind of important given the receiver's still on the board.
I'm just hoping for my Chris Godwin shares that they don't keep him outside. I want him in the slot. Put Trey Palmer outside. Put Chris Godwin in the slot because I think he is a slot receiver. I think McMillan's more of a slot receiver. So just hoping they don't plan to keep Godwin outside with this pick. The last fantasy relevant pick of the third round. My guy, the 37th pick. We're in compensatory range here of the third round. Pick number 100, which I think 100 is the best number so far, right? Out of these players. So I think that's the best draft capital. No, but I love Luke McCaffrey. Rookie Crush episode we've linked below. He is my rookie crush going to the Washington Commanders. I think he's going to probably have this opportunity to slot in as the slot receiver here. Potentially very interesting for me. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 1. Jahan Dotson, some people are in, some people are more out on him. And then we have, obviously, a tight end room of Zach Ertz and now Ben Sinnott. We have Austin Eckler here. There's a lot of competition. I love this guy. The more I'm thinking on it, I love that he got third round draft capital. People were not expecting that whatsoever. I'm just hoping that he can carve out 400 or 500 receiving yards with decent yard per route run in year 1 so that his fantasy stock is not sunk, because I think it might be more of a year 2 for him. He's also more developmental, hasn't played wide receiver a lot, just 2 years. So I'm a little excited, but I'm also a little bit trepidatious with a rookie quarterback as well.
Yeah, I think the important thing here is that JP and I are losers because you're never going to stop talking about this.
Never.
It's good for him to sneak into the back of the third round there, but we'll have to see how that rookie quarterback develops and things.
I'm hoping because I have Jaden Daniels with Luke McCaffrey in our Dynasty Retirement Home League. Super stack, baby.
Yeah, I'm probably the lowest out of the three of us on McCaffrey. But yeah, he got better draft capital than expected, and landing spot's fine. I think it's somewhat of a win for him or a push is kind of how I'd lean.
And we're going to wrap up today just mentioning a few guys that did not go that we wish we had seen go. I'm going to name the first two because they're kind of, well, Braylon Allen, if you've been listening, you know I'm a Badgers fan, so it's sad for me to not see him go. Nothing is a death nail for a running back. It's all about opportunity. However, there is a big correlation between draft capital and fantasy success as well as job security in the NFL. So really wanted to see him go round 3. And another guy, Troy Franklin, who I drafted in the 7th round in that Dynasty Retirement League about 2 months ago. Man, come on, guys. Draft him. That is really disappointing. I am bummed. Going to throw it to David for your running back that you were hoping went with day 2 draft capital.
Yeah, I was hoping Jalen Wright went, but we'll see where he lands. You know, this wasn't a strong running back class, so we can't be too disappointed in these guys.
Yeah, I think what you said, Justin, is job security is the biggest thing. I think NFL teams, they value those day 2 picks so much more than they value day 3 picks. So, yeah, for these guys in Braylon Allen and Jalen Wright, I think they're going to have to really pop and make an impression on the field for these guys to be able to have a starting job moving forward. So, yeah, it's kind of more of an uphill battle for those two prospects.
And JP, you mentioned one quarterback that although he was not projected as a starter, the fact that he didn't go with day 2 draft capital, who's that guy that kind of lost a little bit today?
Yeah, that's Spencer Rattler. A lot of people are in on like his intangibles and his tools, and we've seen some growth from him as from his character, because early in his college career, it didn't seem like he was the best person, but it seems like he really grew as a leader. He won the MVP of the Senior Bowl, so yeah, he seemed like he was kind of rising. And yeah, for him not to go day 2, it does seem like teams aren't as interested in him, which I'm kind of surprised because we saw 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. So I thought that might be a good indicator for somebody interested in another quarterback. But unfortunately, he is not in day 2.
And the last guy, David, guy you were high on, big also just in the Twitter fear sleeper that did not go. Tell us about him.
Yeah, I got to assume you're talking about Javon Baker here, wide receiver at UCF. Would have loved to see him go on day 2. I was really hoping for it. Kind of weird how the wide receivers fell today, so I'm not going to give up on him. And it just depends on where he lands. But yeah, sad day for us Javon Baker fans.
Yeah, Javon Baker, Troy Franklin. I hope that either the Chargers or the Bills take those 2 guys, because even if it's 4th round draft capital, at least it would get me a little bit excited because we liked their profiles a lot.
And Brandon Beane, he joked about on the Pat McAfee show. They're like, "Hey, you guys are taking wide receiver." He's like, "What, in every round? Because we might take one every round." So I wouldn't be surprised if they take another one. Maybe. But that's our hope here with these guys.
But even if they do, the draft capital will be disappointing. So those guys, all losers for sure. So thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dino Construction Podcast. We were excited to react immediately to this exciting day 2, which was not as exciting as we'd hoped. But gosh darn it, it is still so fun to have the NFL draft going on. Rookie drafts just right around the corner. So from all of us here at the Dino Construction Podcast, we hope this was as useful for you as it was for us. Please make sure to like and subscribe because we are going to be doing a mock draft this weekend as well. And from all of us here at Dino Construction, until next time.